My name is Luke Anders. I used to be a corporal in the U.S. Army, 42nd Engineer Battalion, stationed in Kandahar, Afghanistan. I'm 38 now. No longer in the army. No longer on the battlefield. But a part of my mind is still lost somewhere in the dust and the explosions. And along with it, is a dog named Max. I know some people will laugh when they hear me say that. Just a dog, what's the big deal? Yeah, just a dog. But to me, Max was more than just anything. He was the only thing that kept me alive. Not just alive, but human. Today is Friday, a slightly chilly afternoon. I'm sitting on my back porch, holding a lukewarm cup of coffee, feet propped up on the old wooden railing. On the oak tree right in front of me, a thin rope hangs. At the end of the rope is a collar. Black leather, worn silver buckle, the steel nameplate faded. Max, K9 number 1172. Every year, I clean it on this day. No incense, no candles. Just sit and remember. People often ask me, why don't you ever talk about it? I tell them, nobody wants to hear it. But the truth is, I don't know where to start. How do you talk about a creature that can't speak, doesn't complain, doesn't betray, but loves you enough to give his life? I once dreamed that Max was lying at the foot of my bed, like he used to at FOB Jackson. I could hear his breathing, slow, steady, like a heartbeat. In the dream, I leaned down and called, Max. He lifted his head, looked at me, and turned away. Not sad, not angry. Just walked away. I woke up crying, my pillow soaked. Last week, an old army buddy called. Chuck, support guy from my platoon back in the day. He said, we're having a reunion in Kansas next week. 10 years, Luke. No one's seen you since you got out. I just said, uh-huh. Didn't make any promises. Honestly. I don't have a reason to go. They'll talk about glory, about being heroes, about things I don't feel connected to anymore. And me. I just remember the day Max laid on top of me, and never got up again. I'm starting to write this down not to publish a book or share it online. I'm writing because I need to talk. If I don't, it gets stuck in my throat, like leftover smoke in an old tent. And you can only hold it in for so long before you choke. I remember the feeling when I walked into the K9 training camp for the first time. Not because of anything special, but because I didn't want to be there in the first place. I signed up to be an engineer, not a dog handler. I wanted to work with my hands, operate machinery, not have to worry about another living thing besides myself. When they called my name on the list of additional assignments, I even asked, K9 unit? Did I do something wrong? The instructor didn't answer. Just handed me a leash, a notebook, and said, go pick up your dog. The training camp was at the far end of the barracks, separated, eerily quiet. The sound of the wind mixed with scattered growls, like each dog was speaking its own language. I walked past the kennels, looking at each one. Some barked like crazy when they saw me, others lay motionless like statues. They all had eyes. But not all of them had a gaze. Max was the only one not barking, not looking, not moving. He was sitting in his kennel, eyes wide open, ears perked up, head slightly tilted to the right. When I stood in front of his kennel, he didn't wag his tail, didn't come forward. Just looked. Not hostile, not friendly. Like he was assessing. Like he was waiting for me to decide if I was good enough. The kennel master opened the cage and motioned for me to go in. I stepped inside, slowly. My heart was beating a little faster. For some reason, I was more cautious around him than I'd been around anyone I'd ever faced. I held out my hand, palm open. Max didn't sniff. Didn't move. He looked at my hand, then looked up at my face. That look, it wasn't the look of a dog waiting for a command. It was like he was asking, what kind of person are you? I didn't have an answer. I just lowered my hand, stepped back, and clipped the leash to his collar. Max stood still. Not resisting, but not cooperating either. When I gave a gentle tug, he started to follow, slowly leaving the kennel. The first training exercise was a simulated mine detection. We had to cross a field with training devices buried in it, the kind that emit a signal when a dog picks up the scent of fake explosives. Max didn't react at all. I gave the command 3 times, search. But he just stood there. The whole team was watching. Someone chuckled behind me. The instructor came over, crouched down, didn't say anything to me, just gave Max a hand signal. Max immediately lowered his head and started sniffing. 30 seconds later, he found the first device. When he looked back at me, the instructor's gaze couldn't hide his disappointment. He's not the problem. You are. That night, I lay on my bunk, unable to sleep. Not because I'd been scolded. But because of Max's gaze when he was standing there, not doing anything, just watching. Like I was the one being tested, not him. I remember sitting up, turning on the dim light, and reading aloud from the notebook. I don't know why, but I read loudly, like I was trying to make someone hear. In the corner of the room, Max was curled up under the foot of the table. Not moving. But I could see his ears twitching slightly with the rhythm of my voice. That night was the first time I saw him change position when I moved. Just a little, his head turned toward me. Not much. But it was a first. The next week, things didn't get much better. Max was still unresponsive, still looking at me with that half-expectant, half-wary gaze. I was clumsy, even yelled at him out of frustration a few times. No progress. I started to doubt myself, was I the right person for this? One day, the instructor pulled me aside after training, looked me straight in the eye. You're trying to make him obey you. But you haven't given him a reason to. He's not listening because he doesn't trust you. That evening, I sat outside on the training field, under a tree, eating my usual army chow. Max sat beside me. I didn't leash him. Didn't give any commands. Just ate. Occasionally offered him a piece of meat. He didn't eat it. But he didn't leave either. When I stood up to clear my tray, Max followed me. Just one step. But it was the first step he chose to take. That night it rained lightly. Water seeped into the edge of the tent, ice cold. I huddled on my cot, trying to pull the blanket tight around my neck. Around 3 in the morning, I felt a strange warmth on my back. I turned my head. Max had jumped up sometime, lying close to me, not moving. His fur was wet, warm, his breathing steady. I didn't shoo him away. Just closed my eyes. And slept, for the first time in many nights. The next morning, I woke up early and went to clean the training field. Max followed me, off-leash. I gave a hand signal, he nodded slightly, then ran ahead. 3 steps. No more, no less. A dog will only look at you for a long time if he's waiting for something. Not food. Not a command. But certainty. After that training session, I started to learn to keep my mouth shut more. No yelling, no emphasis, no trying to act like I knew what I was doing. I just did things. And Max watched. Gradually, he didn't stay behind me anymore, but stepped ahead of me every time we entered the training field. No one said anything about what that meant. But I knew. With K9 dogs, going ahead is how they take the danger upon themselves. Every morning, I quietly prepared my gear, gloves, baton, leash, water, and a small piece of cloth that I used to tie around Max's leg so he would be easy to identify in the mass of black fur. No one told me to do that, and no one thought it was necessary. But I liked knowing exactly where Max was if something blew up in the training field. We started participating in advanced simulated scenarios: smoke, gunfire, fire, chaotic shouting. The instructors wanted to see if a human-dog team was calm enough to detect the signs of a hidden bomb when everything around them was like real hell. The first time, Max froze in the middle of the field. Smoke obscured visibility, sirens were blaring, a young soldier on the other side shouted the wrong command, causing everyone to panic. I couldn't see anything but the faint black silhouette in front of me, but I didn't yell for Max. I just held my position, lowered my head, extended my hand across my stomach, palm facing up. 10 seconds later, Max came out of the smoke, rested his head on my hand, his nose cold and wet. My throat tightened. Not because I was happy, but because for the first time, I saw his eyes seek me out like home. Once we were training in the mock forest, pouring rain, mud, grass taller than our knees. Max sprinted ahead to scout. I was running behind him and got tangled in a strand of barbed wire stretched across the tall grass and tripped face-first into the dirt. My left leg got slashed open, blood seeping into the rainwater. I tried to stand up, but Max had already come back. He didn't bark. Didn't panic. Just rested his head on my thigh, his eyes staring straight ahead. I whispered, barely audible. "I'm all right." He still didn't leave my sight. But when I took a step, he moved right beside me, to my left, not returning to his position 3 steps ahead as he usually did. He stayed in that spot all the way to the end of the exercise. That night, I cleaned my wound, then cleaned Max's paws. For the first time, I saw him lay on his back on the floor, panting after he ate. I patted his chest gently, like knocking on a friend's door. "You don't need to watch over me for the rest of your life, Max." He just breathed. His eyes narrowed. No response. But he didn't turn away. Every training session, I started letting Max decide which route to take. Without waiting for too many orders. I just gave hand signals, direction, distance, stop, continue. Max understood. Even faster than I'd imagined. By the 3rd month, we were chosen for a special drill team, simulating real missions at night. The terrain, an abandoned industrial complex, dim lights, sporadic explosions, people acting as civilians and enemies. The dog had to recognize the scent of explosives and not react poorly to chaotic crowds. I wasn't scared. But my hands were sweaty. Not because it was dangerous. But because I didn't want Max to fail. The exercise lasted 27 minutes. Max found 3 bomb locations in the collapsed building and sniffed out a package of fake explosives hidden in the chest of a dummy. Everyone clapped. The trainer nodded. Max didn't react at all. He just walked towards me, slowly, then sat beside me. I didn't pat his head. Just opened a bottle of water and placed it on the ground near his snout. He lapped a few mouthfuls, then leaned his back against my leg. Someone took a picture. I don't know who. But that picture was later sent home. It's in a little wooden box next to Max's collar now. One evening, I was writing a letter to my sister. Each soldier was allowed to send one handwritten letter in the final month before going to war. I wrote a few lines, hesitated, then added. "You asked what I cherish most here. It's a dog. Doesn't know how to speak, doesn't ask for anything. But for the first time in my life, I feel like if I disappear, someone will go looking for me." I folded the letter, but before I could put it in an envelope, I saw Max lying under the table, his head resting on my boot. A few days later we received orders that we would begin moving to the Kandahar war zone, so after many months of training together, we would begin our march to that harsh place. 3 days of preparation and then one evening, we all began moving to that harsh place. The feeling of setting foot in Kandahar for the first time, wasn't exactly fear. Just a long, long silence. As if everything inside me, heartbeat, breath, thoughts, were forced to stop, to make way for something else, vigilance. There was no green there. Just sand, dust, rocks, and sun. The daytime heat hit you like opening an oven door. The nights were cold, deathly silent, like lying next to the mouth of a well. Gunfire didn't always ring out, but it was there in your head, even when you couldn't hear it. Max adapted almost immediately. He didn't need time to adjust. His paws touched the sand, his ears perked up, his nose twitched, his eyes darted constantly. I knew that look, not fear. Alertness. Extreme alertness. The first mission took place 3 days after arriving at the base. A convoy was stuck on Highway Q36, suspected to be booby-trapped. Max walked ahead of me, still keeping his 3-step lead. He sniffed along the tires, went around the back of the old pickup truck, then suddenly stopped. I tensed up. Max looked at me, just a glance, then lowered his head and lightly pawed at the ground. I signaled the team to stop. The detonator was found under a rock, less than 2 hand spans deep. The bomb disposal team confirmed, if the vehicles had kept going, dozens of people would have been blown to pieces. No one said much. But the way they looked at Max after that was different. That night, I wiped the dust off Max with an old wet rag. He sat still, breathing evenly. When I stopped, he nudged his head into my stomach. I said softly, almost whispering, "You saved them, Max. Not me." He didn't respond. But for the first time, he slept with his head resting on my boots. The first 4 missions went smoothly. Of course, smoothly here doesn't mean without danger. Just, no one died. Max detected an explosive device attached to a container of humanitarian aid. Once, he sniffed out a strange smell in an abandoned house. Later the inspection team discovered traces of Taliban soldiers who had been there less than 24 hours earlier. I started to understand what it meant to walk alongside death every day. And I also understood that Max was always the one going first. No one asked him to. He chose to. One evening, my team was assigned to assist in the evacuation of a group of civilians. Among them was a child of about 6 years old, small, messy hair, couldn't speak English. The boy kept following Max around. I was going to pull him back, afraid he might be in danger, but Max didn't react at all. He let the boy hold on to the fur on his neck, walking close by like a guide. When they reached a safe place, the boy sat down on the ground, pressed his cheek to Max's head. Not smiling. Not crying. Just closed his eyes. I felt my eyes sting. Not because of anything specific. Just, sometimes my dog understood humanity better than I did. It happened on the 15th night. We were ambushed while patrolling 4 kilometers from the base. Gunfire erupted suddenly from 2 sides. The team scattered. Max and I dove into a crevice. A bullet grazed my knee, not serious, but agonizing. I lay pressed against the rock wall, Max lying across my chest. Not moving. Just breathing, steady, short, softly. We lay there for almost 5 hours. I don't remember everything I was thinking. I just remember every time I closed my eyes, I saw an image of Max, not in reality, but in my head, as if he was a memory between me and every fear. When the gunfire stopped, the rescue team arrived. I was taken to the medical station, stitched up, given antibiotics. Max only had a small scratch on his belly. I bandaged it myself, in silence. From that day on, Max never let me go outside the tent alone. Even if it was just to use the bathroom, he would quietly follow, sit and wait, without anyone calling him. One evening, I sat reading a letter from my sister. There was a picture of her new baby in the letter. Max came over, gently licked the edge of the picture, then lay down in the middle of the tent, belly up, legs straight up, as if to say, "You have a little one you need to get home to, remember?" I looked at him, shook my head slightly, and smiled for the first time in almost half a month. Then I said, "I'll try. But you have to come with me, Max, don't leave me behind." He lowered his ears, turned his head. No reaction. But I knew he heard. Kandahar is not meant for the weak. Nor does it keep those who are not worthy of living. Max was never weak. And I only got stronger when he was by my side. It was our 13th mission in Afghanistan. Not a lucky number. But no one mentioned it. And no one thought anything bad would happen, because it started too easily. A reconnaissance team from a friendly unit discovered traces of an abandoned weapons cache in a cluster of mud brick houses, nearly 8 kilometers from the base. My team's mission was to inspect, verify, and mark if there was danger. Satellite maps showed that the area was uninhabited. Clear skies. Light wind. Good visibility. Everything was favorable, the kind of favorable that made people uneasy. I adjusted my body armor, tightened my helmet strap. Max stood beside me, holding the leash in his mouth. The old piece of cloth tied to his front leg was faded and tattered. I didn't say anything. He didn't need to hear anything either. We'd been together too long to need to say more. The road to the compound showed no unusual signs. Max was 3 steps ahead of me, as always. The ground was wide, hard sand, old tire tracks almost erased. I scanned constantly, feeling my head begin to tighten. Not because of fear. But because I didn't see anything at all. Max stopped in the open space between 2 houses. His ears perked up. I saw his nose twitch. I raised my hand to signal the team to stop. Max slowed down, each step like measuring the earth's breath. He didn't bark. Didn't scratch. Just lowered his head and stopped, stiff as a living stone. I knew that look. No doubt about it. Something was here. I lowered myself, preparing to signal, then the ground shook. Not a warning explosion. Just a heavy, deep, sharp sound, like the sky was collapsing behind my neck. Artillery. I didn't have time to turn around. Shrapnel hit my shoulder, blood gushing out with a burning heat. I staggered, then collapsed to the ground. My cheek pressed into the sand. The ground was cold, dry, smelled of metal. My ears were ringing. Eyes blurry. The only image I managed to see before losing consciousness was Max, turning his head to look at me. Not a panicked look. Nor a warning. Just a look. Direct. Deep. Like a silent nod. I woke up in the frontline medical station. My shoulder was tightly bandaged. 4. Ventilator. Mouth dry as sandpaper. Someone was saying something in my ear, but I couldn't hear clearly. I stammered. "Where's Max?" No one answered. Just a young doctor, face covered in dust, leaned down, voice low. "He was lying on your chest when the second shell hit. If it wasn't for him, I think we'd be bagging you up right now." I don't remember how I reacted. I just remember trying to sit up, then vomiting a pool of thin blood, my mouth bitter. Something in my chest broke. Not bone. Not muscle. An empty space, right in the middle. I asked to have Max's body returned. Not standard procedure, but they made an exception. Someone on the team helped me cremate him, the ashes in a military supply tin. I held it in my arms when the plane took me away from Kandahar. No one said anything on that flight. One soldier looked at me, then lowered his head. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just squeezed the tin so tight my hands were bleeding. I didn't hold a funeral. No eulogy. No headstone. I dug a small hole in the backyard, under the oak tree. Buried the tin. Stuck the old stick in the ground, the kind of mine-detecting stick Max used to chew on when he was at training camp. Hung his collar on the branch. That's all. I haven't gotten another dog. Not because I'm afraid of the pain. But because I know no dog will ever look at me the way Max did. Not because I'm afraid of death. But because Max died so that I could live. 3 years later, a stray dog suddenly appeared in the yard. Thin, dirty, ears torn. I chased it away. It left. But that night, it came back. No barking. No whining. Just lying right where Max used to lie, next to the oak tree, head facing the house. I opened the door. Stood there for a long time. Then walked over and sat down beside it. My hand gently touched its matted fur. It didn't move. I looked up at the branch. The collar was still there. I said softly, not sure who I was talking to. I couldn't protect you. But you don't blame me. And from today, I will live as you believed I could.